Hey, vets and families, welcome to the Therapist Explains VA Mental Health Disability Ratings series. This is your guide to understanding how the VA decides claims for PTSD, anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions. Listen, if you're a veteran and you're battling PTSD or depression, you know that the fight doesn't end when you hang up the uniform. So I'm approaching this series both as a veteran who's lived it, all of these, some of these concerns, and as a trauma-focused therapist who has counseled others through it, and I'm still counseling others through these mental health concerns. That means you'll get a unique perspective, a lived experience, and I'll back it with research and clinical insight so that you can navigate your claim with clarity and confidence. Listen, VA mental health ratings are based on 38 CFR 4.130, the general rating formula for mental disorders. It's how your symptoms are translated into percentages ranging from 0 to 100%. And so we'll break down each diagnosis using the DSM-5 TR. This is the same manual that therapists and the VA use to define mental health conditions. I got one right here. You'll see exactly how your symptoms align with VA criteria and how to strengthen your evidence. Every episode that I do is going to include a DSM-5 TR overview of the condition, a research highlight, a proven VA claim strategy, and then some practical steps to help you build a strong evidence-based claim. You can also download my free guide. It's the VA Mental Health Claim Self-Assessment and Decision Tree. This is linked in the description and it's pinned in a comment. This is going to help you organize your symptoms, match them to the VA rating scale, and then prepare for your C&P exam with confidence. If you or another veteran needs immediate help, please call the Veterans Crisis Line at 988 and then simply press 1. You are never alone, and you've got help in this fight for your mental health and for your well-being. I want to be along on the ride and along on the journey with you. So before we start, let me give you a quick disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes only. I don't give legal, clinical, or medical advice. Royal Rock Counseling and Consulting LLC is not affiliated with the VA, and we don't prosecute claims. We do help you understand the process and connect you to qualified professionals if necessary. If you find this content helpful, please like it, subscribe it, hit the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Your support helps this channel reach more veterans and families who need clear, trustworthy guidance and advice on mental health and VA claims and things that can help their families live well and live well. So thank you to everybody who's already subscribed and commented and shared. You're part of the community helping veterans take back their voice, their health, and their future. So without further ado, let's begin your journey toward a fully developed VA claim that's informed, confident, and empowered. These videos aren't going to be that long, but they will all help you live royally and live well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the series. Hey, vets and families, today we are going to talk about the VA rating for social anxiety, phobias, understanding Diagnostic Code 9403. And so this is the VA Disability Code 9403, used for all phobic disorders, including social anxiety disorder. The rating formula is used with the general rating formula for mental health disorders, as we've talked about throughout this whole series, under 38 CFR 4.130. Rating levels based on the severity of social and occupational impairment, ranging from 0 to 100%. The focus of this rating is dependent upon the functional impact of your social anxiety symptoms, not just your social anxiety diagnosis. And what you'll notice about all of the videos that we are doing for the mental health claims portion of VA mental conditions are that they are based on functional impact and not just the symptoms themselves. Very important to understand that as you navigate your VA claim. Let's look at the DSM-5 TR diagnosis and some key features of social anxiety disorder. The diagnostic code under the 38 CFR is 300.23, and that's for social anxiety disorder, social phobia. Some of these are marked fear and anxiety about one or more social situations where the individual is exposed to possible scrutiny by others. This comes up often, particularly in the military, where people are from different cultural backgrounds, different ethnicities, different races. There may be anxieties or phobias developed because of how they are seen by the majority culture. And so very Very important to keep an eye on those kinds of things that may rise in the military, or if you've experienced something like that in the military, to note those stories in your claim. Fear of negative evaluation, fearing acting in a way or showing anxiety symptoms that will be negatively evaluated, meaning they will be humiliating, embarrassing, or leading to rejection. What people don't often understand about the military is it's just like the playground at school. Sometimes it's a very demanding and very crass and sometimes a very cruel environment, depending on where you are stationed, what service you are in, and what duties and assignments and tasks you have. So for some veterans, it can be a really, really dark place, and they can be looked at and judged irrationally. And so, this is where those phobias would come from. Avoidance of social situations, they're avoided or endured with intense anxiety and distress. And the impact of this particular social anxiety disorder is the fear, anxiety, or avoidance is persistent. It's typically greater, 6 months or greater, and it causes clinically significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. And so, as we always do in our videos, let's look at some scholarly insight with regard to some of the challenges that are associated with this particular mental health disorder, as outlined in the research that's done by McDonald and Ganglion in 2021. Research shows social anxiety disorder is often undetected and underrated in veterans. This is largely due to a low treatment seeking behavior. And what that means is most veterans won't think that they have some kind of disorder. What they'll do is they'll just press through it and think that it's a personality difference between them and, say, their peers, their subordinates, or personality difference between their superiors. So they won't seek treatment for that. SAD is a chronic disabling disorder associated with substantial functional impairment and elevated risk for comorbid conditions like PTSD and depression. You'll find in the DSM-5-TR that those symptoms are very closely associated. So again, as we always say, it takes a trained clinician to understand some of those differences and perform a proper diagnosis. Continuing with the same scholarly insight, the claim challenge is that there's a military stigma. These symptoms, like performance anxiety, avoiding crowds, are often downplayed or hidden due to military culture. Again, we've talked about sucking it up. Listen, you're doing your VA claim now. This is not the time to suck it up. It's time to corral all of those memories and all of those things to think about if you may have experienced some of these symptoms so that you can properly file your VA claim. Lack of in-service documentation. You might not have a formal social anxiety diagnosis in your service treatment records. And then a difficulty proving the nexus, connecting your current severe social impairment to the stressors of military service becomes complex without a clear in-service paper trail. And that's going to be the case, particularly with mental health concerns, because for whatever reason, the behavioral health element of sometimes taking care of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, and National Guardsmen was not as evident, particularly in older sort of post-Cold War vets, and even World War II, back in the history of the VA, it was just not as much from a mental health perspective. So it's going to be hard even trying to get evidence for this particular claim. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about the claim challenges for social anxiety disorder, because I want to make sure that you understand this a little bit more intricately, because it's hard to prove and there are some other factors that need to be considered. So this slide is the key to winning your VA claim for social anxiety. So if you don't look at any other slide, look at this one. The biggest hurdle for most veterans is proving service connection when the medical records are weak. Okay, when you don't have viable, adequate evidence in your service treatment records, that means you have to go a different direction. The core of the problem, and this comes directly from peer-reviewed research, is that the social anxiety is often an undetected and underrated problem in the military community. Our study that we referenced called it the hidden burden of social anxiety disorder in U.S. military veterans, right? I want you to think about this. We were wired for community, and most of us have a community before we come to the military. When we come to the military, we experience a level of separation from that community. So many of us, if you're in the military at 17, 18, 19 years old, you don't have the tools to properly engage socially with others. And so some of those fears, some of those phobias start to come on you. And then that's when we start exhibiting some of these symptoms. Why is it hidden? Because of military culture and stigma. It's not acceptable to report intense fear about briefing a superior or participating in a group exercise. Y'all know this is true. These symptoms of social phobia are often masked or written off as shyness, meaning you lack the necessary in service documentation. You're just shy. You just aren't good with people. You just aren't good speaking up. You're just not a good public speaker. You're just not a good leader. Those kinds of things. And those words actually feed into the phobia that we have as well. This leads directly to the claim denial trap. The VA rater sees no diagnosis in your STRs and denies the service connection. Your challenge is to use the rest of your evidence. Remember, we talked about taking a different route. Use the rest of your evidence, your Nexus letter, if you decide to do something like that, and lay statements to prove that your current functional impairment is a continuous consequence of your service, even though you didn't seek help back then. Other ways to do it, we are showing you how, particularly because there's a stigma in the military around social anxiety disorder. So let's talk about an evidence strategy for winning your SAG claim, part one. As we know, as we've always talked about, you need a current diagnosis and severity DBQ. And in this way, you're going to ensure a qualified mental health professional completes a mental health disability benefits questionnaire for phobic disorders. And that DBQ is most likely going to be a one catch all DBQ, but there may be some specifics on those DBQs. And then it's going to clearly detail your diagnosis, which is social anxiety disorder, and the severity of your current functional impairment. The next thing you want to do is establish the Nexus, which is the link demonstrating ongoing treatment or consistent symptoms of SAD from discharge to present. And this could be via VA or civilian providers. And this can support a claim even without a formal Nexus letter. And I like this particular piece of it because, as you know, I'm not a fan of Nexus letters. I do believe that a connection between a service connected illness, injury, or event can be established with other evidence that comes from your normal treatment providers. And that's how you can establish a nexus. Ensure the documentation outlines explicit language to your current social anxiety disorder or to your military service. Okay. For example, traumatic events, high stress social environments, or performance anxiety. All of these things are things that if you just stopped for a second and thought about in the midst of what was happening during your military time, you can definitely find evidence. You can definitely find right statements. You can definitely explain it to a mental health care provider in a way that they will understand how that links over to your current diagnosis. And then corroborating evidence, lay statements, submit detailed lay statements from yourself and buddy letters from family, friends, or former service members describing specific instances of your social anxiety symptoms and how they've impacted your social, academic, or work life since enduring service. Interesting one in there is academic life. Remember, as a veteran, you also have the Montgomery GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill, in which case you can go to school and you can do those kinds of things. You can talk about how even at school and in your academic environment, how it has an effect on learning the social anxiety, right? How that particular anxiety can impinge on you so much that it hinders your ability to learn. And that can be something that you use in your personal statement. Now, due to the burden of proof being so high to prove social anxiety disorder, as we've talked about earlier, the second part of this strategy is going to focus on linking your symptoms to the criteria that's found in 38 CFR 4.130 mental health disorders. So the VA rates on impairment, and your evidence has to directly align with the VA's rating criteria, which focuses on functional impairment. Targeting the rating criteria, here's some examples. At the 50% rating criteria, symptoms causing occupational and social impairment with reduced reliability and productivity, panic attacks on exposure to social situations, severe difficulty maintaining relationships, or engaging in group activities. At the 70% rating, deficiencies in most areas, work, school, family, judgment, thinking, and mood due to severe symptoms. For example, near total inability to initiate or maintain social interactions, withdrawal from social opportunities, illogical, or irrelevant responses to stress. That means when you get into those pressure environments, your social anxiety symptoms rise to the forefront and you aren't able to really carry on social interactions in a healthy way. Here's an actionable tip. During your compensation and pension or C&P exam, clearly articulate the frequency, severity, and duration of your social anxiety symptoms. Emphasize how these symptoms directly prevent you from performing effectively in work or social settings. Let me throw in school settings because school settings, although not separated from social settings, everywhere you go, you're being social, whether it's at the grocery store or school, whether it's anywhere outside of your home, whether it's at work, anywhere you go, you're being social. But sometimes we don't think about school settings, as we talked about in the last piece of the video, but that is also included in social settings. So you're going to use this language of occupational and social impairment to describe your daily struggles. Hey, guys, some families, that'll do it for this video. Huge announcement that I have for all of my subscribers and anybody else who's out there looking for veteran content. I don't want you to miss what's coming in November. Starting on November 1st, I'm going to be doing 30 claims in 30 days. Every single day, I will break down a different VA disability claim, explain the rating criteria, evidence strategies, case law, and insider tips to help you win your claim. Veteran Day live stream, I am going to, on November the 11th, be live streaming from my channel. It'll be the first live stream we've done on this channel. I want you to join me right here. I'll be answering your most common VA claim questions. I'm going to be sharing updates straight from 38 CFR and M21-1, and I'll be taking your questions in real time. Don't forget to download the free mental health assessment and decision tree. It's located in the video description and in the first pinned comment. Thanks for watching, guys. And remember, live royally and live well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you want any more information about the subject of this series, be sure to check out the playlist right here. And remember, live royally and live well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.